Live from the campus of Washington and Lee University, this is a Channel 18 Rockbridge News Update.
Welcome to the Rockbridge Report's Election Night live coverage. I'm Paige Williams.
And I'm James Laverty. The polls are closing right now across Virginia, including here in Lexington and Rockbridge County. For many voters, this is the first time they have visited the polling booths since the presidential election a year ago. The big ticket race is governor, which is predicted to be a close one to the very end. Current Governor Terry McAuliffe made sure to get his vote in earlier today. There are also going to be some interesting local elections, like the Clerk of Court and the County Board of Supervisors. We have reporter Bryn McCarthy live at Salerno's. Members of the Republican Party are gathering there. Bryn, tell us about the atmosphere there and voter turnout in Lexington.
Thanks, James. I'm here at Salerno's with the local Republican Party. They are still currently setting up, but hope to officially get things going by 7:15 tonight. The mood is high, and Republicans are still currently filing in after what has been a very long election. Speaking of the election, voter turnout today at the Rockbridge Area Relief Association was pretty high considering the bad weather. Election official Trina Welsheimer says voter turnout has been steady. By around 1 this afternoon, she said 960 voters had registered on the poll book. This represents just over 20% of the registered voters. This total is just shy of 4,000 people. This type of election typically does not draw much voter interest, but she says this year they have received higher voter turnout than they would normally expect. The Rockbridge Report spoke to several local voters here today.
I come out to vote for the local elections and for governor.
Came to vote. I think it's important for us to make sure we know what's going on in our communities. I know this isn't like the national election for president, but for a lot of these positions, these are people that I work with in the city. If I need something, these are the people I call. So that's kind of why I came out.
Because it's my privilege as a citizen to vote. Great. And I always enjoy the process.
Because we are able to vote, and it's the most important thing in our democracy that we still have this opportunity. And I'm really afraid with the way things are going in our government, we may not have that opportunity in a meaningful way. So I'm voting now so that we hold on to it.
I came out even though it's raining because I think it's my civic duty to vote, and also because I was volunteering here in the first place, so it was really convenient for me.
Well, because I think that the Democratic candidate is much too liberal, much too progressive, in favor of sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, and so on and so forth, and I'm against that.
That was a sampling of what was on voters' minds in Lexington this afternoon. But tonight, the focus will shift from opinion to numbers, and we are here at Salerno's with the local Republicans as they monitor those numbers. Paige, back to you.
Thanks, Bryn. That electric mood even extended to the two major candidates for governor today. Earlier today, Republican candidate Ed Gillespie voted in the election. He faces Democratic candidate Ralph Northam. Gillespie and Northam differ on taxes, guns, abortion, and other issues. Gillespie supports a cut in the state's income tax rate, less gun control, and more restrictions on abortions. Northam said he wants a tax overhaul that targets low-income Virginians, supports greater gun restrictions, and abortion rights.
This race is very, very close. Every vote is going to count today. I hope my supporters get out and vote because it's going to make a huge difference. It's going to be a close contest, I suspect, but I feel like the momentum is there for us.
On the other side of the aisle, Northam was also seen at the polling booths today. With the poor weather, both candidates may expect a lower voter turnout, but a 2007 study from the University of California says bad weather especially affects Democrats. The researchers found rain reduces voter participation by about 1% per inch, and that poor weather benefits the Republican Party's voter share. Virginia's election could reveal how Americans feel 1 year after President Trump's win. CNN's Ryan Nobles reports on the close gubernatorial race.
In what is likely the most important political contest of 2017, the final stage of the race for governor of Virginia has turned into a political slugfest.
Well, hello, Virginia!
Democrat Ralph Northam and Republican Ed Gillespie have spent the last 48 hours crisscrossing the Commonwealth.
Well, you have my support.
Thanks again for everything you're doing. Appreciate it.
While on televisions across Virginia, hard-hitting ads dominate the airwaves.
Ralph Northam's policies are dangerous.
The race could offer an early glimpse into the mood of the American voter as it relates to the Trump presidency. And his impact on this contest is undeniable.
I think a lot of people are watching and they're looking at Virginia to see what direction we go in. So we do expect a good turnout on November the 7th.
Trump has used his powerful Twitter feed to fire off several endorsements for Gillespie, a former aide to George W. Bush.
I think the fact is, obviously, his supporters here are supporting me, and I appreciate that very much. And I'll take all the help I can get.
But while Gillespie's not fully embracing Trump, he's not been afraid to leverage the culture war championed by the president, touting his support to keep Confederate monuments in place.
I'm for keeping them up, and he's for taking them down. And that's a big difference in November.
Northam understands opposition to the president is central in building enthusiastic support from his party's base. During his hotly contested Democratic primary, Northam described Mr. Trump as a, quote, narcissistic maniac. But now, during the general election, Northam is running ads promising this.
So if Donald Trump is helping Virginia, I'll work with him.
Would you work with someone if they called you a narcissistic maniac?
I stand by what I said. Again, if there are areas that we can work on, like building up the military, I'm going to be there and do what's in the best interest of Virginia.
There's not much room for nuance when it comes to President Trump, and it is Gillespie that's been forced to walk a careful line.
Republicans have not won a statewide race in Virginia in 8 years, and if they pull off a win in this environment, it could further embolden the Trump wing of the party and leave Democrats wondering what options they have left.
Although the governor's race has the national eye, there are several local races we are watching tonight. The Rockbridge Board of Supervisors has Stephen Hart, Daniel Lyons, and Susan Lawrence up against each other for the Carrs Creek District. In the Walkers Creek District, the Rockbridge Board of Supervisors has Richard Kopp, Albert J. Lewis II up against each other.
And in the Carrs Creek District for the Rockbridge School Board, Lori Strong, the incumbent, has challenger Heather Hostetter going up against her. And in the South River District, another incumbent, Kevin Brooks, also has a challenger, and that would be Corey Bergstresser.
Up next on the Rockbridge Report, veteran journalism professor and Rockbridge County political observer Brian Richardson will chat with us about what to watch for tonight.
And Brennan Black will show us whether today's big weather change was enough to keep voters away.
It's been pretty rainy here in Lexington over the past couple days, and it looks like it's going to continue. I'll have your weather forecast next.
When it comes to saving money,
What? Parents!
don't act like a baby.
Oh, it's like they're having their own little meeting. This is so humiliating.
Be the boss.
I'm the boss.
What the?
Power nap. You were saying.
And make a budget.
Let's get to work.
Need a little help?
Stacy, read back the notes.
I can't read. What's it say?
Create a personalized savings plan and get other tools and tips.
We can share.
You obviously didn't go to business school.
At feedthepig.org.
Oh, emojis! I thought the conversation just got dumber.
Yes, we finish up with...
Ugh, internet trolls, just ignore them.
I like you just the way you are.
I believe in you.
She's a hugger. Give her a squeeze. Help up the hand. Ah, there you go. Thanks, mate.
You're killing it, Zane!
Listen, I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you judge me for having a problem. No one is going to know that I need help. I need help. I know that no one is going to judge me for having a problem. I realize that I'm not perfect, but it all really started to change because you listen.
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Each one of our journeys keeps us. Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside. The Box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Oh, emojis! I thought the conversation just got dumber.
Ugh, internet trolls, just ignore them.
I like you just the way you are.
I believe in you!
She's a hugger. Give her a squeeze.
Help up the hand.
Ah, there you go. Thanks, mate.
You're killing it, Zane!
We have reporter Keenan Willard at the Democratic headquarters on Jefferson Street for tonight's election. Keenan is checking the mood there tonight.
We're coming to you live from the Rockbridge County Democratic headquarters on South Jefferson Street in Lexington, where voters are gearing up for a potentially contentious race for the Virginia governor between conservative candidate Ed Gillespie and Ralph Northam, the Democratic candidate. Now, voters are filing in here. The vibe is one of kind of hushed excitement, and people are really preparing for what could be a very exciting night for the Democratic Party in Virginia. We'll be sure to keep you updated as the situation progresses here. Back to you.
We have Professor Brian Richardson with us tonight. Professor Richardson is a veteran journalism professor and Rockbridge County political observer. Thanks so much for joining us, Professor Richardson. So the weather's been pretty nasty out there all day. How does that affect voter turnout?
It usually has an effect on voter turnout, despite what the study that was cited in the first segment. Ordinarily, it keeps turnout down. A low turnout tends to favor Republicans because they're better at getting out the base, getting their base voters out. It could be bad news for Northam and other Democratic candidates tonight.
Okay, so when did you vote today, and what did the polls and some of the turnout there look like when you went?
I voted about 9 o'clock this morning. Of course, the peak times are before people go to work and after work. I was surprised. I didn't talk to any of the elections officials at my polling place at Ben Salem, but it looked like there was a brisk turnout, even though, as they say, that's usually a slack time.
Mm-hmm. So local races are supposed to be nonpartisan.
Yeah. Everybody who believes that, stand on your head.
So have the candidates aligned themselves with one party or the other, and how do you think?
Yeah, a lot of the candidates have. I think to be elected to countywide office in Rockbridge, you pretty much have to align yourself with the Republican Party. So remember that the supervisor races are district representation, so people just in that particular district are voting. Maybe a little less important there, but for clerk of the courts, for example, Michelle Trout, I think, has definitely aligned herself with the Republican Party, and I think she's got to be the favorite for a number of reasons. So again, they're supposed to be nonpartisan, but everybody sort of winks at that.
And so what do you think this says about the political life west of the Blue Ridge?
I think the Democratic Party, for strategic reasons, that being they're running against Donald Trump, the elephant in the room, abandoned all of the voters and candidates, Democratic voters and candidates west of the Blue Ridge. You can't run against Donald Trump and expect to get support west of the Blue Ridge. This is Trump country. So I think the voters who do not support Trump and were looking for somewhere else to go, I think may well feel abandoned by the Democratic Party in this election cycle.
So how do you predict independents and undecided voters to break in this governor's race?
Well, traditionally, independents and undecided voters, the last minute deciders, go about 3-to-1 Republican, heavily Republican. I don't expect that to change at all this time around. I expect that they will favor Gillespie. You got to keep in mind that when Gillespie ran against Mark Warner for the Senate 3 years ago, he was supposed to, Warner was supposed to win handily. All the polls had him up to several days before the election, easily ahead, and he just barely won. So Gillespie is a strong campaigner and has a reputation as a fast finisher.
And we definitely saw that last year too in the presidential race in Virginia.
Yeah.
Up next on the Rockbridge Report.
We'll take a look at the weather and hear from Brian Richardson on races right here in the Rockbridge area.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
I'll be right back.
Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
Open road, here comes the Heffley family.
Whether it's a short trip or a long haul,
Estimated time, 47 hours.
they will beg,
You're hungry? I'm happy to provide.
they will plead.
Deep fried butter on a
stick. But whatever you do, don't wimp out.
Now you're talking.
Make them buckle up.
He can't hurt.
Remember, safety first. Cheese curls second.
Are you orange?
We've seen how bad the weather was out there today and how it may have affected some of the races that we'll be revealing the results of tonight. Brennan, what does the weather look like for the rest of the week?
Well, unfortunately, James, it looks like we're going to have some more rain tomorrow. We may have a brief respite on Thursday and Friday, but the weekend also looks rainy. I'll have more over here. So for today's forecast, we have a high of 42 and a low of 38. The barometric pressure is 30.12 inches of mercury. The wind speed is 5 miles an hour and the humidity is 93%. And now for our regional conditions. We have in Charlottesville, it's around 43 degrees, and most of the temperatures are pretty similar, around low 40s. Stanton's a little colder at 38 degrees, and pretty much across the board, it's rainy and pretty foggy in some areas. And now for our 5-day forecast. Wednesday, it looks like we're going to have some more rain, unfortunately, with a high of 50 and a low of 34. Thursday morning should also be pretty rainy with a high of 54. However, later in the afternoon, it may actually clear up, and that hopefully should lead into Friday as well, which should be pretty sunny with a high of 48 and a low of 22, and which will be a nice respite from the rain. Unfortunately, though, on Saturday and Sunday, it looks like we're going to get some more rain. Saturday should have a high of 46 and a low of 30, and Sunday should have a high of 52 and a low of 35. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Brennan. We're back with Professor Richardson to discuss some more local elections and what they could mean for Buena Vista and Glasgow. And here we have the race for the Buena Vista mayor. William Fitzgerald is taking on the incumbent, Larry Tully.
Yeah, anytime Buena Vista is got to be considered a toss-up in just about any of these races because there's so much storm and drang over there lately. They've had to default on their golf course loan twice. They're in court about it now. The incumbents obviously are wearing the yoke of that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the challengers have any better solution. Both of those, who knows? I'm not going to try to call them.
Do you think that race will be affected by partisan politics at all?
No. I think in that race, in the city races, they're not really, aligning themselves, affiliating with political party. It's interesting because in BV, the city council races, there are 3 open seats and only 2 people running for them. They can't even get people to run for city council over there. So you're going to have a write-in candidate, who will be elected. Sometimes somebody like Donald Duck or something. But anyway, similarly with the school board races, the incumbents, ordinarily tradition and a number of other factors favor the incumbents. but who knows? Things have always been a little topsy-turvy in BV, and it seems like that's only gotten worse in the last few years. I think that the fact that 4 people are running is going to dilute it a little bit. Now, the race for Buena Vista Commonwealth's attorney is interesting. Jared Moon, stiff challenge against Christopher Russell, the incumbent. Chris Russell's been there for a dozen years or so, and has had broad support. But again, I think that's one race where Moon is seen to be associated with the Republican Party, Chris Russell a little bit more with the Democrats, and so that could have a bearing on things. Buena Vista used to be solidly Democratic, but it has turned into Trump country, and as we know, Donald Trump's the elephant in the room, all the way up and down the ballot this year.
Indeed, it's been.
Join us back here on Channel 18 at 8:30 tonight for more election night results.
Until then, you can go to rockbridgereport.wlu.edu for up-to-the-minute election coverage and results. See you at 8:30.